We saw the new Looney Tunes movie, The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie. So Aiden, what's the plot of The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie?
The Day the Earth Blew Up survived David Zaslav's execution and ended up at Ketchup Entertainment somehow, who are also apparently bringing out Looney Tunes versus Acme,
Get Batgirl.
which was also canceled.
Bring back Batgirl. Come on, Brendan
If
Fraser.
Batgirl comes out, you're gonna have to re-upload the whole DC video.
I'm gonna have to delete my whole progress and start over.
The Day the Earth Blew Up focuses entirely on Daffy and Porky, who are like an odd couple who are raised as orphans by a farmer who
Kinda like
walks
Obi.
off to heaven and leaves them behind, and then an alien meteor destroys their house, and the alien begins taking over the world with infected chewing gum, and Looney Tunes shenanigans ensue, and then it becomes Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and then it becomes Armageddon.
Briefly, The Thing for like a
The
scene.
Thing a little bit of everything, just a little bit of everything. Connor, what'd you think of The Day the Earth Blew Up?
I thought it was okay. I thought it was good. One thing I loved right away, and it's probably the reason it was initially scrapped,
Yep.
it was 2D animation, which is kind of cool. And I think they actually did a good job putting some money into it. Like, you can tell it's digital, but they tried their darndest to put the budget towards it to make it kind of feel more like the old school Looney Tunes. Like, it doesn't look horribly ugly. There's good colorization, which is something digital art sometimes lacks. Like, you look at like SpongeBob episodes post the movie when they stopped coloring them by hand, and they're like neon.
There's no
Like,
texture,
it's way
shading,
too
they're
bright.
completely
There's
flat.
yeah. This movie chose to try to kind of emulate hand-drawn style. So you got 2D, and no one's gonna hand-draw a movie. It's too big of a pain in the ass. They probably don't even have the fucking equipment. Maybe like an indie project or something. But the problem with that is mostly time, money, and equipment.
Yep.
It's like, it would be harder, or I mean, honestly, it would take more specialty equipment than just like shooting on 35mm or something, like, or 70mm like Quentin Tarantino always tries to do.
Yeah.
Primarily because it's more than, like, nowadays when you shoot on 70mm or something, you just got all the modern shit. You just hook up film to it.
Yep.
Or it's kind of like how they'll be like, we filmed this on an iPhone, and then it's just like a giant macro lens on an iPhone with like 500 things, and the iPhone's modded, and there's pretty much an Apple sticker placed on the side of a professional film camera.
Yep.
That was all kind of an aside, but I liked the art style. The characters Porky and Daffy are played by the same person, and I think they did a good job. One thing I will note is occasionally you can really tell they were played by the same person, and it's somewhat baffling. I feel like a lot of the best animation projects, like, re-upping voice actors is common, but I feel like especially with like big budget movies, and not like, Family Guy, where you just have Seth MacFarlane do impersonations for 20 minutes and then send it off. You kind of want more than one voice actor, because Daffy and Porky occasionally sound like the same guy doing a really solid Daffy and Porky imitation, but eventually, since it's not 5 seconds long, you start to realize that it's a guy imitating Daffy and Porky. It's not a huge deal, but it also kind of has some aspects of, like, obviously, like, even in the name it's kind of obvious, but if you know, like, 50s sci-fi atomic cinema, there's a lot of that. Like, it kind of feels like The Blob, or like the original War of the Worlds film, where it's like the whole Earth is taken over, but we're gonna look at how the Earth was saved in one small town in Kentucky somehow.
Yeah, it's very atomic age.
Yeah, and obviously then there's a lot of moments that show that Invasion of the Body Snatchers, The Thing, those, of course, both had 70s remakes and are probably the most famous. In fact, the imitation of The Thing was pretty explicitly John Carpenter's version, as opposed to the 1950s version. But they really tried to like get that tone and quirks and mix it well with Looney Tunes, and I think they captured it pretty well.
Yep.
There are some like moments where they're like, okay, this is for modern kids, so we have to have like
Daffy Twerk,
and
Boba Tea.
Yeah, so some like Mimi shit, like Daffy's taking ass shots for his OnlyFans. That's like unironically a part in the movie. So there's definitely some modern flair into it, but for the most part, it really, I feel like, tries to emulate like this kind of old-fashioned style and does it well. And I like the idea that the center of the movie is kind of within like houses and the small town, and the setting is very important to the movie. It's not Daffy and Porky are flying to New Delhi and then flying to fucking Britain,
Hong Kong,
you know.
It's not
there's like little like
Transformers
vaguely
3.
racist characters along the way.
It's
Nothing
not
like that.
Transformers 3.
It's a small town, and Daffy Duck, Porky Pig is like the Steve McQueen of this movie. And yeah, no, it's good. It kind of has that old-timey feel, which I thought was kind of an interesting concept. I can see why David Zaslav is like, how the fuck are we supposed to sell this? And they sold distribution, and I think the fact that David Zaslav canceled it was probably press enough to kind of warrant Ketchup Entertainment like not having to market it very much, because I think it's kind of just come out, and apparently that means they're brokering a deal now to do the same with Acme versus Coyote, which was a canceled Roger Rabbit style Looney Tunes movie starring that one fucking guy.
Yeah. Yep.
What's that fucker's name?
I don't remember.
Look it up. It's that Will Forte.
Oh yeah.
I was telling the audience it's Will Forte in like a Roger Rabbit style movie, but anyways, we might see studios like Ketchup Entertainment kind of buy up some of the Zaslav content. I doubt we're getting Batgirl.
No.
I heard the movie was unfinished, so that would be an undertaking. I also do not imagine for brand reasons that would be allowed. I think these movies were dropped solely because they figured they'd make more money as a tax write-off than putting them on HBO Max for no one to watch.
Yeah.
But the fact that they were canceled, it pretty much made enough marketing for these finished Looney Tunes, mostly finished or completely finished Looney Tunes movies to get enough traction to actually go ahead and be released.
Yep.
It definitely feels like something that belongs on HBO Max. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, I could see this coming to theaters in like the 90s or something. But I don't think kids today are really the target demographic for movies. I don't think, even with how wild Looney Tunes is, I don't know if it'll keep a Skibbity child at bay for 90 minutes. And also, I think the movie is weirdly referential of a time period that I don't think most of the fucking parents would even remember, like
No.
Steve McQueen monster movies from the 1950s. I'm just a fucking loser, so I know about what they're referencing, and I recognize a lot of the references. The movie's pretty horny too, but overall it's good. So Aiden, what are your thoughts on Looney Tunes movie where the Earth blows up?
It's pretty good. It looks really nice. The animation, digital, but they do a good job of making it look very nice, and it's very fluid and detailed. They switch up the animation style a few times, go for a slightly more classic thing, and have a weird little musical number with some different animation styles. It's definitely a throwback to a different era of horror movies, played silly. The real heart of the movie is Porky and Daffy's relationship, which sounds really stupid, but it mostly works. They're both goofballs in different ways. Daffy's the chaotic goofball, and they learn to trust each other and do all the stuff. So even if a lot of the references fly over kids' heads, I think it's an enjoyable little time. But I can definitely see why Warner Bros. Didn't find it marketable, because Looney Tunes hasn't been relevant in a long time. Even when we were kids, it was just reruns of cartoons from 40 years ago, and now it's
try like 60, 70.
Yeah, even
a lot of the
even
famous
further
Looney
back
Tunes
now.
shorts are literally like the 40s
Well, when
and
we were
fucking
kids.
50s. So yeah, I guess.
When we were kids, they were 50 years old. Now they're 70.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the movies that it's referencing are also very of that same 50s, 60s era mostly. But it is an enjoyable time. It's fun. I think it's not very funny most of the time. There's a couple moments that stood out, but I didn't find it like hilarious or full of the kind of classic Looney Tunes people getting hurt comedy. But it works for what it is. It's well made. Just maybe too niche for Warner Bros. To ever have gone ahead with in any reasonable way, and kind of just getting to actually come out off of the controversy of it not coming out.
Yeah, this is kind of the lesser of the three films with Coyote versus Acme. That cast being very vocal. Batgirl was fucking pretty much ready to ship. I mean, the movie wasn't, which is why it was scrapped, but as far as the public knew, it was like a nearing completion film that was coming out in like 6 months. This one is definitely the least transparent of the three, but supposedly we'll be getting that Coyote and Acme movie probably not super far off if the deal goes through, which it sounds like negotiations are happening. So it must be doing okay enough that
I never thought we'd
Ketchup's
get
able
to
to
see it.
recoup. And
We've made multiple jokes about how it wasn't coming out, and here we are.
yeah,
Yeah, so Connor, would you recommend The Day the Earth Blew Up?
yeah, on its own merits. If it's something that you're interested in, like if you're a fan of Looney Tunes, you're probably gonna get quite a bit out of it. There's like a moment where they cut away and do a bunch of gags that you might see in the 1940s short films, the Merry Melodies short films.
Yep.
There's some moments that are just classic hijinks. It's definitely Daffy and Porky, the characters starring as Daffy and Porky, the orphaned brothers in this world that is mostly devoid of faces like Bugs Bunny and stuff. It's very centralized and focused on those two.
Yep.
But I mean, even if you look at like the early Merry Melodies shorts I just brought up, that's how a lot of them were. They were just kind of standalone. These are just goofy characters, and you put them in a situation, and then it unfolds. So in a lot of ways, it's a pretty competent 90-minute extension of, you know, those 15-minute shorts from back in the day.
Yep.
And I think it does a really good job. It's quick, it keeps the pace well, and yeah, I'd recommend it. But it's definitely like a kid's movie and stuff. But I mean, there's appeal to like film fans who are fans of like that atomic age filmmaking, and Looney Tunes fans, and as a moderate fan of both genres, or the genre and the franchise moderately, and having an understanding, I got what they were doing, and it was fun, but I don't care that much at the same time. But I mean, it's a good way to burn 90 minutes, and probably supporting these canceled films if you want to see like Coyote and Acme, or the very long shot chance we one day see Batgirl. I don't know if that's legally possible. I would love to see Batgirl because I know it's going to be awful.
Yeah.
That's one thing where like when Zaslav canceled it based on like what we heard of the production, It sounds like, I mean, even before that, the test screenings were coming out really negative. That was a not unknown fact before its cancellation. So, but I would love to get Batgirl, round out whatever the fuck they were going for. It's a DCEU movie, but Michael Keaton stars as Batman, which is, I suppose, something they would have tried to explain in Flash, maybe, but they couldn't because they reshot that old movie because Ezra Miller's a child molester.
It's a wild ride.
Maybe Batgirl can stay in the camp, but I'd be interested in seeing the Coyote Acme movie. And I think there's something moderately interesting about this concept, and if Warner Brothers wanted to continue doing little 90-minute expansions of those old Looney Tunes movies, if there's a good concept.
Yeah.
There's clearly some people with passion about it. As you can see with this movie, that is loaded with passion. So, Aiden, would you recommend fucking Looney Tunes Blew Up the Earth or whatever?
Yeah. It's a bit niche. It's, animation fans, Looney Tunes fans, and I guess like pulp 50s sci-fi fans. There's a little bit of everything in there for those three camps. I don't know if it would hold a child's attention. A modern Skibbity Rizzler Roblox child might not be able to force their way through it, but it is good. It's well made. Not hugely funny, but it works for what it's going for and what it's doing. It's really solid, but it probably only appeals to people who think it'll appeal to them.
I want to be fair to the Skibbity children of today. I think my attention would be held better than them when I was a kid, but in fairness, like, when I was like 5, 6 years old, like the target demographic for something like this, in theory, like, I started glazing over by the end of Zombie Island, Scooby-Doo, and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they were good movies, and I enjoyed them as a kid, but it's hard to keep a kid's attention in general, especially with them having an even more fried attention span from my personal experience.
Yeah.
So, yeah.